tuned for the Joan Quinn Profiles. As an editor for Andy Warhol's Interview, the Los Angeles Herald-Examiner, LA Style, and Detour magazines, Joan covered the social set, the Hollywood hotshots, the international art scene, the mysteries of food, the excitement of travel, and the fabulous world of fashion. Joan continues to find creative people on the cutting edge who make things happen. Here's Joan Agajanian Quinn.
Hi, I'm Joan Quinn, and welcome to the Joan Quinn Profiles. Waiting to be profiled is entertainer Kathy Mackey and performer Marc Goodman. Kathy Williams Mackey was born and raised in Memphis, Tennessee. She began her singing career at the age of 6 with the Progressive Baptist Church and went on to be featured on a weekly teen show on radio. She studied voice at Memphis State University and at the U.S. Naval School of Music in Norfolk, Virginia. There was no doubt that your career was cut out for you when you were a child.
Obviously.
Did it run in the family?
Very much so.
Tell us who. I know you have so many musicians in your family.
Actually, my grandfather, Putney Dandridge, I guess we're of the Dandridge, I'm from the Dandridge lineage. And actually my half-aunt is Dorothy Dandridge. And my mother is Vivian Dandridge.
Oh, your mother is a Dandridge.
Yes, definitely.
I see. Okay. And your Uncle Dick Ross?
My Uncle Dick Ross played with W.C. Handy for, I'm sure, his whole career.
On Beale Street?
On Beale Street, and my Uncle Rufus played washboard. Uncle Dick played piano. And they're both in the Beale Street Museum of Music.
I've seen that.
I
was there. I was at the Peabody.
The Heritage Tour. Oh, that's
I was at the Peabody. I watched the little ducks walking in and out. Yes. I went for ribs at the Rendezvous.
Oh my God, you know all about it.
Yes. So I was really excited when I heard that your family was on Beale Street.
Of course.
Those beautiful, what are they? Big neon signs all over.
Yes.
But and your brother?
My brother Louis Williams was the lead singer with a wonderful group called the Ovations.
Oh, he was a singer.
He was the lead singer.
Oh.
Yes, and he had a voice, a velvety, flawless voice that would remind you of Sam Cooke.
But you also sang with the Ovations.
I sang with my brother.
Oh, you did?
Yes.
Oh, was that early in your career?
Very early, from like 15 years old.
Oh, so he was like a Sam Cooke?
He started to teach me the stage and show me the ropes.
Oh, he did?
Yes.
Oh, that's so great. You did, you did so much. You give lessons in music.
Actually, I am a voice coach and teacher.
Ah. Mm-hmm. And how do you get your students?
Well, now I'm currently working with the IRI Music Network. And it's a program that's set up for Japanese students. They're imported from Tokyo to me.
You know, that's very interesting. We were talking about what a rage in the Far East music is. From opera, I didn't know blues was a big. Do you teach blues?
Oh my goodness, I sing the blues. I said yes, I do.
And you teach that?
Of course.
And you teach gospel to them? Is there any difference in the translation from, say, the Asian students to other students in the world?
It's all phonetics.
It is.
It's all phonetics, yes. And you would be surprised. They have such a hunger for American music. They really come and they want to learn the standards. And then they get into the pop and the blues, and it just becomes a well-rounded, course.
Is there like a natural musical background in those students? Do you see that?
Some of them, yes, but most of them have been trained classically on piano.
Yeah.
And so they can relate.
Does that help you?
It helps me a lot.
And do you play the piano?
I play enough to teach.
Oh. So you, as your career took off, were always on the road.
Actually, I tried being a lot of things. An airline stewardess, a nurse.
You did?
I was in the military. I was trying to be a nurse. Every time I tried to be a nurse, I never made it because music always interrupted my life.
You know what surprised me when you said you were in the military? The Naval School of Music.
Yes.
I didn't know there was a school out there.
Yes.
Is it attached to the Navy?
Oh, it is the Navy.
It is?
The military band.
Oh, the military band.
Yes. I was the vocalist for the 5th Naval District Military Band.
Oh.
And they broke it down into ensembles and jazz bands, whatever the occasion called for. What a wonderful lesson, although I didn't think it was at the time. I hated that discipline.
Oh, I see.
But it certainly paid off for me.
So you played, you sang.
I was
with
vocalist for the
Marvelettes. Hold this up. Here's a picture of you and Ray Charles.
Yes.
And where were you basically when you were working with him?
All over the world.
You were?
Oh, but of course.
I'm going to hold this other one up too because this is a colored.
That's a copy of the show, the '96 show in Tokyo, Japan.
Oh, you were there with.
Yes.
You also sang with the Marvelettes.
Oh yeah, I made my debut with the Marvelettes at Caesar's Palace on New Year's Eve night. What a wonderful show!
So did you spend a lot of time in Las Vegas? Was that a big part of your?
It's always a big part of it when you were a big star.
I see, when you were the big star. What other big stars were you with?
Well, I was with the Marvelettes. I worked with Rufus Thomas. I worked with the Barkays. Al Green.
Barkays, right? Yeah.
Isaac Hayes and Al Green. You see, I am from Memphis, and this is all Memphis music.
Oh, so they all know you. Because I was going to say, how did they know to call Kathy Mackey?
Because they knew my brother.
Oh, it's all in the family, just like we said.
Yeah.
Is it, or do they audition you, or do they just know what you can do?
Sometimes it can work either way. Most of the time, you're recommended.
You recommend.
You come highly recommended.
You went to Brazil, I know. You spent a lot of time. Did you live down there?
I lived in Brazil for 4 years, and I've been back home 2 years, just moving back.
Oh, so what'd you do in Brazil?
Well, I was in Brazil with Ray Charles, and we were doing a show celebrating his birthday party. I get back to Los Angeles, and the tour is over. We toured 6 months out of the year, from January to June. I get home, and the people at the same club where we had performed asked me, well, they invited me to come back with my own show.
That's
how I got.
And then you went back to
No, I never came back.
Oh, you stayed there.
It became so good until, well, I was just offered to stay, and I worked. That's what I did.
Did you sang solo then?
Oh, always.
And then did you pick your group to what kind of group did you have?
The agent I was working with helped me put together a Brazilian band.
So you sang Brazilian music? Or
they didn't want me to sing Brazilian music. They want American music.
Yeah, so what were you doing with your Brazilian band? Teaching them American music?
They know it better than we do.
Oh.
And with all those extra rhythms. Oh,
so what were you, like, would you ever sing a cappella?
Of course.
Oh, you do?
Of course.
Oh.
Uh-oh. Are you putting me on the spot?
No. Well, I just wondered because people like you with a voice sometimes don't need anything else but to...
But I do a show. And my show in Brazil was a tribute to Ray Charles.
Oh, was it? So what'd you sing? Tell us some of the songs.
Oh my God. Well, I would always open with probably something like Georgia. And you always close with I Can't Stop Loving You.
So there you are.
There you are, and fill in everything in between.
all of his work.
So wonderful.
Yeah. And you worked with him, and you still have that wonderful feeling.
Oh, you know what I have? I have the magic.
Yeah, that's what it
the
took.
magic.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it can't be bought.
You are working on a project with Linda Hopkins and Dal Scott McDuff.
Yes, I am.
And it's called Old Folks Night at the 1020. It's in the 1020 room?
Yes, it is, in the Wyndham Bellage Hotel. And don't get it wrong. It's not O-L-D.
Oh.
It's O-L-E.
Oh.
Olé.
Oh. This is
that's Dal.
This is Dal
Scott McDuff. That's the wife of the famous Jack McDuff.
Yeah, tell us about her.
She is just fabulous. Let me just read you a little bit about her.
Oh, okay.
I have it all right here. Actually, she's the founder of the Jammin' Foundation. And the Jammin' Foundation was established in 1997 by the famous legendary vocalist, Miss Dal Scott McDuff. The mission of Jammin' Foundation, Jazz America's Music, May It Nurture, is to build the musical community through promoting, preserving, and nurturing America's music, gospel, jazz, and blues, and recognizing the need to pass this information down, to the younger generation. We are on a mission, and this is why what we do is promote shows all over the city.
Does she sing in the show?
She's the diva.
And then you also have Linda Hopkins.
Linda
in
Hopkins.
The shows.
Well, this is what it is. Doll Scott McDuff and Linda Hopkins are presenting Old Folks Night to Los Angeles.
I see.
Okay? At the 1020 room in the Bellage Hotel from 6 to 10.
So how do you describe their kind of music?
Their kind of music is authentic. That's the only way to describe it. That's America's music.
Do they sing together?
They can. But you got 2 divas here now.
Yeah.
3 now.
Oh yeah. Are you a part of that show too?
Of course I am.
Oh well, we're so glad you came on to be with us today.
I'm so happy you asked. And please invite all the people down for Old Folks Night.
We want them to come down, and we want to see you. We want to see your other divas, Linda and Doll, D-A-H-L-E.
And
that's a great name.
And you know that Linda is a Tony Award-winning performer.
Linda, I saw in Pearly, so you know how long ago I saw her on Broadway. She was great.
And Doll has entertained with the best all over the world.
And so have you, Kathy.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for being with us. And don't go away. We'll be right back with Mark Goodman. Hi, I'm Joan Quinn, and welcome back to the Joan Quinn Profiles. I'm here with Hoofer choreographer, master teacher, Marc Goodman. He began his tap dancing career at University of New Hampshire, and he said that's U-N-H, you need help. That's what you told me on the phone.
Thank you for pulling that out, by the way. I appreciate that. I won't be getting too many calls about that now.
Mark earned a bachelor's in theater arts there. And when you moved to New York, did you go because you had a spot with the American Tap Orchestra?
What happened was I had met Brenda. My teacher in New Hampshire brought me down to Boston for the first great Boston Tap reunion. And I met Brenda Buffalino, who was the founding director and artistic director of ATDO, is what we call the art.
So you were still in college, you came from
right.
there.
And then she said, when you move to New York, come see me and audition for the company. So I was going to move to Boston. I was a little nervous. I was young and I didn't know what I wanted, and I thought make an intermediate move from Boston to New York.
Yeah.
And then I said, you know what, if I'm going to do it, let's jump in.
So were you a really good tap dancer then? I mean, I don't know.
How can I put that?
Arts.
I was in theater. I will tell you the truth. I went for a couple of years to school not knowing what I wanted to do. I didn't start dancing until college.
That's pretty late,
isn't it? It is
late.
It absolutely is late. But we are very fortunate being men. When I'm guys, we can start later. And I also
is that because of the body build and?
You know, that's a good question. I don't really know. Usually what it is men don't make up their minds, at least from my generation. If you were dancing when you were 14 or 15, there was a stigma put on you. So when I was a little older and I had a little bit more self-confidence, I started to dance. I needed a gen ed requirement in college, and my girlfriend at the time said, why don't you like to dance? So I enrolled in this theater dance class. We had 2 days of jazz, 1 day of tap. And I have the stretch of a pet rock, so I couldn't touch my kneecaps.
But men don't have stretch, do they?
No, a lot of them don't. And what we did was we had 2 days of jazz, and then our last day on Fridays was tap. And I was terrible in the jazz. I mean, I did my best. And then after the tap class, Gay Nardone, who was my teacher there, said, you pick up quicker in tap than you do in jazz. And I said, okay, finally something I'm good at. So I started tapping a lot. And at that time, I was secure enough in being a man that I could do it. I don't know what it would have been like if I was 11 trying it. I'm not sure.
It had a real kind of cool masculine.
Well, I was brought up watching
absolutely
Gene Kelly.
Yeah, Gene Kelly, Fred Astaire.
Absolutely, and so it
so that
turned
gave
out,
you a different feel, I guess, going into dance.
Yes, it did. And a lot of men start very late because there are a lot fewer men in the business.
Well, you worked with Greg. I mean, we could just about name them, can't we? You worked with Gregory Hines. Did he start late in life?
No, Gregory.
He was
Gregory
a
started. Yeah, he was a natural, and he was being taught by all the greats in his father's nightclub, and they would pull him aside and say, "Here."
And
he
where'd you
learned
work
that
with
way.
him?
I worked with him. He was on the board of directors for the American Tap Dance Orchestra, so he was down at the studio.
So he knew you as coming in as a beginning
Yes,
dancer.
and he was at that time choreographing Jelly's Last Jam, which, as far as I'm concerned, was the last great American musical.
I saw that too. That was great.
She just did.
Wasn't it just incredible? And the other person you worked with, the Savion Glover, who was very young.
He was this tall.
Yeah.
And his talent is still, he has, I think, generally argued as the fastest feet in the history of tap.
And he was on Broadway.
Oh, well, he was in the Tap Dance Kid when he was 3. No,
he was, he was 12.
He was 11
14,
or 12, something like that. And then he started teaching at Broadway Dance Center. And I used to take his class when I moved there.
You did?
And then I took over his class. And Save is throwing stuff down that a lot of us can't even fathom. And I've been tapping for a lot of years.
But does he make his own things, own steps? Is that why you say?
Well, we all do. And, we go in and we improvise. And we do a lot of a cappella. We do a lot of improvisation. And how we used to teach in New York was to just make it up on the spot. And Savion would come in and he would throw stuff down. And then he'd look around and sometimes he'd say, "Mark, what did I just do?" And I'd say, "Savion, you're throwing stuff down that nobody in the world can do. If you don't know what you just did, I can't help you." So he'd have to break it down a little bit more. He was.
But he could remember, and he'd break it down.
Well, his mind was and is phenomenal for
So
tap.
I just remember reading that when he would finish like a matinee and an evening at one time, his feet would be like mush.
Oh yeah. Well, you have to understand.
I mean, it was like scary.
Savion is moving his feet faster than anybody in the history of tap. I got that. I did a show with Buster Brown and Sandman and Savion, and Buster Brown, who has been through vaudeville and burlesque and Broadway and Hollywood, said, "I've seen a lot of things. I've never seen anything like Savion." He's moving his feet so fast and doing so many things physically that really take a toll on the body that at the end of every day, I can imagine he had to sit in a hot tub for 2 hours.
Yeah, because he just exerted it. That's what I had read, and it was like scary. What about Coles, Honey Coles?
Honey.
Because he lived to. Do tap dancers live to be real old?
I will tell you, every tap dancer I know have reached the age of 80 or 90.
Yeah.
Honey, I'll tell you a quick story about a man no one's ever heard of. Some people have who are in tap. Steve Condos. He was a wonderful tapper, and he was in Europe doing a show, and he finished his set in Paris on stage, walked off, and died right there. And his wife, who's
danced till the end.
He did. And his wife said, "You know what? I'm obviously she was devastated, but she said that's how he wanted to go." And these hoofers are going until they're 90, till they're literally.
It's like a conductor in a way, isn't it?
Sure. Absolutely.
Using certain parts of your body and making it go all the time. Are there a lot of different styles to tap?
Yes. Everybody has their own style. Well, there are certain general names, general genres. There is the Broadway style, which is up, a little flashier, not based on rhythm. There is rhythm tap and hoofing, which are one and the same, which is based squarely on rhythm.
Yeah.
And then there's what I call Gregory Hines, who'd bridge the gap between both of them.
So he was melodic and moving.
He did everything. He's who I try to pattern. He and Honey, who was, you put butter on a hot stove, and that's how I thought he moved. They would bring a performance quality to their art, and they would bring in audiences who never really knew about tap because they were so personable. And if it wasn't for Gregory, I wouldn't have a career, because he brought many people who just never would have really gotten into tap.
You have your own tap company now.
Yes.
But do you have to have acting lessons to be able to perform on the stage? Because you've been in No No Nanette, 42nd Street, Sophisticated Ladies.
Right, I've been very lucky in my life. I took 2 years of Meisner technique. I did acting. I think it helps absolutely, because you're, in this show here particularly, which is what we're trying to do, Seal with a Kiss, it's based on music by Seal. And it's a autobiographical story, and there's love, and there's suicide, and there's addiction, and so you need to call on.
But whose story is it?
It's mine.
You wrote the story.
I wrote the story.
You
yes.
wrote it. So you use his music to depict?
Absolutely. I use his music. He's very deep, and I love Seal's music. And I was listening to it, and I used to choreograph to it, and I realized that there was an arc there that closely matches my own. I am not comparing myself to Seal and his life, but his music spoke to me. And I wanted to do a show about an bad experience I had.
Oh, it was
with an ex-girlfriend.
But it's autobiographical then,
Absolutely.
in a way.
There's some drama. There's some dramatic license. I mean.
So, but is it all tapping?
No, we have a little bit of hip hop and some ballet. And I am a tap dancer first. My idea for the company and for this show in particular was to be able to do a show that's mainly tap that can get to emotions. So I would love for people to come out of the show going, you know, I didn't know I could feel anything doing a tap show. That's been the challenge, to get rhythms and stuff to make sense of the emotions.
Well, that's what happens when if you're in a movie, you probably have to act a little bit.
Absolutely.
in a movie. I don't know, where did you do 42nd Street and
oh my gosh.
Sophisticated Ladies in Europe?
I did 42nd Street in Europe. That was a wonderful tour, great experience. I did a lot of the other stuff in New York and surrounding areas. Sophisticated Ladies was in Connecticut.
No, Nanette.
No, Nanette was, gosh, that was in Maine, actually.
But what about Sugar Babies? Did you do it with Anne?
No, as a matter of fact, I auditioned for, I had done Sugar Babies once in Massachusetts, and they called me in for the audition. Chet Walker was having the auditions, he was choreographing. And the funny story is, we had a ballet, and we had a tap, and then we had a jazz. He keeps me after the ballet section, Chet. And I go, okay, I made it. Then he has the tap section, and he cut me after the tap section. So I give Chet, if you're out there, okay, I owe you one for that.
So
yeah,
but you know, the reason I brought that up is because Ann Miller lived across the street from me.
Oh, really?
And her mother was like wonderful woman, tall, great posture, always walking her dog that Ann had given her. And she used to tell me, Joan, everyone loves a tap dancer. That's why she had Ann
it's true, and Ann Miller was one of the best. I mean, there's...
She used to always say, everyone loves a tap dancer. And I went, like, Mrs. Miller, why do they, you know?
Well, I will tell you, this is what I tell people. Whenever I say I'm a tapper, here's one of two responses. There are two responses. Oh, I've always wanted to do that, or I used to do that. All the time.
Tapping?
Everybody says it.
I never used to do that.
And in fact, when we were talking in the green room, what did you do?
Ballet.
No, you did. No, you did not. You did ballet, absolutely. But you said,
I tried to do a
I can
tap stand. Why? Because people think if they just move their feet, they're tapping.
And in a lot of ways, that is true. I just have more training than some.
That's
Everything
right.
is a rhythm. Life is a rhythm. You know, there's.
That's very interesting because ballet totally different.
Well, it is different, and ballet is not the most individual of art forms. Whereas tap, for me, you can make your own.
It's creative,
absolutely,
isn't
well,
it?
I think everything's creative. I don't want to.
But it's a different kind of creative thing.
Absolutely.
I didn't think about that till you started telling me. You teach at the Performing Arts Center in Van Nuys.
In Van Nuys, wonderful studio out
What
there.
kind of classes do you teach?
I teach. Well, I teach.
come?
You can come anytime you want, and I will only charge you half.
Oh, good.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I teach the upper two levels of the kids program, so I get to work with all the great tappers. Every teacher, every tap teacher there has worked with me, so my style is there.
So they can teach your style?
Yes, and I also
see.
teach adult classes, and it's just a wonderful studio. I'm very fortunate to be there. It's also the home of the Marc Goodman Tap Company.
Oh, is that where you are?
Yes, and we get free studio space donated to us because we are a nonprofit.
You're a nonprofit.
Absolutely.
Why is that? That's an interesting thing too. It's like a ballet company could be a nonprofit, or a tap company.
Absolutely. The reason we did nonprofit was, there were a couple of reasons. One is to apply for grants from government and private sector, and the other was I would like to go out and reach into the inner city a little bit and work with kids who don't normally have the chance. So I want to get 50 pairs of tap shoes, go to some school somewhere and go, here.
So you raise the money, buy the tap shoes, go into the school, donate your time, and do a lesson.
That is one of our goals. Now we are working on the money right now, and
oh, that's so great.
This show that we're doing, Seal with a Kiss, we are actually bringing the show up to New Hampshire in June as a fundraiser for something called Families First up there, that they help indigent families, and they give prenatal care and free medical.
Well, that's so good.
Yeah,
that's great, because you're doing something you love, and you're also helping a lot of people and bringing, like this excitement to us.
Well, that's very nice. I always say how lucky I am. I'm very lucky to do what I do. I'm making a living tap dancing. How many people can say that?
Yeah, that you
honestly?
love to do. You were in a movie, Polar Express.
Yes, we worked on that.
What was that like?
Polar Express it was all motion cap. So we were wearing these very tight, skin-tight suits with pickups for the computers. And I got to work with Tom Hanks and Robert Zemeckis.
Did they really appreciate what you could do?
They loved us. So we had 4 tappers.
Oh, good.
And Tom Hanks was just the nicest man. And whatever you think he's like I described Gregory Hines the same way. They're not movie stars. They're just good people.
Yeah, I
and
agree.
he actually bought all the dancers lotto tickets. I won $50 from Tom Hanks. We were on set. We was only supposed to be there for 3 days, and we were there for 3 weeks. None of us complained. The best catering we've ever had. We got to work with Bob Zemeckis, who has directed Back to the Future and all that. And I got to work with Tom Hanks. I mean,
that's so good.
Did
you ever expect to do that? Did you ever expect to make movies in your career?
I always wanted to do movies because that's what I was brought up with. My mother made very sure that I watched Gene Kelly and Fred Astaire. And
oh, that's right. Those were all movies.
Absolutely.
I mean, that you were.
She always said, Mark, you need to go through life with a style, which is what Gene Kelly did. And I thought, okay, I want to do movies. And as I got more into tap, I mean, it's a very, different style of art form. And when it comes up in LA, the same people go to the auditions.
I was going to say, are there a lot of the same people going to those auditions?
They're the same 8.
I was just going to say there must not be more than 10.
No, they're the same 8 or so, and they're all wonderful. And we all have, what's so great is we all have different styles, everybody. And that's why I love this art form, and that's why I can make my own company, my own style. I don't have to copy anybody.
Are they tall, thin, short, medium, everything?
Yes. They are everything. They are everything. The thing about tap is this is why I love tap. Ballet, you have to be the perfect turnout. You have to be this thin.
Slim, right.
You have to be this tap. You know what? I saw Gene Kelly dancing in jeans and loafers, and I thought, okay, I can do that.
And you see like these really heavy people so light on their feet.
Absolutely.
Is that because they're tapping?
That's because they have discovered how their bodies move through their art form, and they can make it look light. You see them walking down the street, and you go, wait a minute, they're a dancer?
Yeah, they can't do that.
But when you see them put on their tap shoes, they transform, and they know how to move their bodies.
Is that what you teach?
I teach movement a lot. I don't like just the pure rhythm of just standing in one place. I tell my students, everybody has feet. Look at we all have feet. That doesn't separate you. This is what separates you. And if you can learn to express yourself through this and this, you will never look like anybody else. I don't want anybody looking like me. I have enough competition.
This is great. Mark, this has been so interesting and so much fun.
I want to thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you.
If people are watching the show,
where is the
Seal
show?
with a Kiss. It's at the Madrid Theater in Canoga Park. If you need information online.
It's online. We can't give your website, except it is a nonprofit.
It's
so
nonprofit,
we should
absolutely.
come and see you.
It's April 9th.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And thanks for watching the Joan Quinn Profiles. Keep writing to 777 South Figueroa, 44th floor, Los Angeles 90017.